Shalom. Welcome to Eretz Israel. I'm Avraham Shira, and this is a new week. A new week is a new chance, and we need new chances. Let's face it. In this world, with everything that we're looking at, every chance for a new chance is a good chance. We all know what we're talking about here. Life is tough enough without trying to get close to God. When we get close to God, everything comes out into glaring reality, glaring truth. But that's where we live. That's where the divine presence is in our truth, even if we don't like the truth. But today we're going to talk about dancing in the name of God. And this is a Torah from Likutei Moharan, Mem Aleph 41. And it's a Torah that gives us strength and hope. And it begins with the whole Kabbalistic section, literally how we dance with the name of God, according to the structure of man, the lower form, and the structure of the divine, the upper form, and how they connect, and how dancing is a union of the upper and the lower form, which, it kind of gives us a much greater insight into how deep something simple as getting off your feet and lifting up your knees and getting it going is really, it's an amazing divine process when you learn it inside the Kabbalah. So we're going to take it piece by piece and see how it goes. But Rikudim, dancing, the Eitz Chaim, the Arizal says that the Berkayim, Hayinu and the Raglayim, Hem Netzach Vahod. Okay, so the two legs, which include the thighs, the knees, and the ankles, are powered by two divine traits called Netzach and Hod, which in English is translated roughly as eternal victory is Netzach and Hod is splendor. And those two powers are part of our multifaceted soul. The Kabbalah teaches us that there are 10 spheres to the soul. They appear in 3 columns according to the structure of the body. So I have friends that, people that were interested in Indian religion for a long time, they talk about chakras. But actually, the chakras are all one straight line of forces that make up the soul. And what the Kabbalah says is there was, at one time in the beginning, the primordial creation, all the forces of God's personality were in one straight line, but they couldn't hold the light of each other. So they broke. And when they broke into 3 lines. And that 3 lines started to create what we call dimensionality. Now, that was non-physical. But when you have dimensionality in hyperspace, it still becomes something when it materializes. So that's an interesting thing, the differentiation between the row of chakras in Hinduism and the 10 sfirot in Kabbalah, because really the Kabbalah is interested in the world of tikkun, the world of fixing that which broke. And even the light of God's traits broke in the beginning. That's called the primordial Shvirah, the original breaking of the vessels, because they couldn't hold the infinite. Nothing can hold the infinite. But thank God we can be held by the infinite, which is another whole take. But so these forces are in the legs are called Netzach and Hod, Hem Okvim, and they are connected also to the heels. The Ekev is Gematria Shtei Pamim Elohim. And so the word Ekev, Ayin Kuf Bet, which is 172, is twice the value of 86, the numerical value of the name of God, Elohim, which is the name of God as judge. Remember, God has many names for many functions. And each function, whether he's a judge or he's a master or he's a king or he's the merciful one or he's the kind one, each of the names corresponds to a different trait. Because God has traits just like we do. Understand that very deeply, because it will connect you to the multiplicity of the divine form and the divine persona. So twice Elohim is the gematria of 2 heels. 2 heels. 172. Now always think of gematriot, numerical values in Kabbalah, as gateways of concepts. Okay? In heaven, there's places where you gather concepts. They're not all coming from the same place. There's concepts that deal with God, these traits, that deal with God as king. And there's concepts that deal with God as vengeful. And so, a numerical value is a gateway of ideas, and they collect according to the numbers. So twice Elokim is twice Ekev is twice Elokim is Ekev. Excuse me. Okay. Now Shehem Dinim, and these are forces of judgment, which really, in a broader sense, are forces of contraction, forces of exertion. And so when you get up to dance, you have to force yourself to do something you're not used to doing. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, when the negative forces have a hold on us, and that could look like a bad mood, that could look like a bad week, it look like a bad lifetime, God forbid. It could also look like a bad thought. But the negative forces, that's what they do. They try to introduce constriction and exaggeration from both sides. Okay, but when they have a hold on us, which happens, more often than we like, the activity that we need to do to drive away the external forces, here he tells you a really deep thing. Let's say you don't feel like dancing. You're sitting someplace and like you're at a wedding and you don't want to dance and everybody's dancing. That happens. So there's something holding you back. You don't want to dance. It happens, right? Well, he says, what do you do? Well, he gives you the Kabbalistic formula, and then we have to translate it. But the formula is that we have to bring down to our knees the level of these Netzach and Hod, the knees, the powers of forces that are rooted in the left brain, called Bina. In other words, your mind has power over your knees. Now, you might say, well, I know I have a mind and I have knees. But right now, they're not communicating too well. That's legitimate. I feel it when I get up in the morning and I'm kind of creaky. Like my wife says, we're like old creaky furniture until you get up and do some yoga. But the point is, the mind has the power to illuminate the knees, to send power down. And when we do that, we drive out the negative forces that don't want you to dance. And when we draw the light from this root called the left brain, called Bina, the upper mother, right? When we draw that down into the knees, the negative forces can't take the higher light. That's always the principle in Kabbalah. A higher light will always drive away a negative force. And now he makes a little play on words. And when that happens, when you drive away the negative forces, you take the bracha, which is the same letters as Bechorah, the firstborn. In other words, the firstborn is a symbol of a very central spiritual light within any system. Like in a family is a system. The firstborn has more power from the father and mother than the other children. Look at your families, you'll figure it out. Promise you. But that's the secret of the whole conflict, by the way, that we had between Yehuda and Yosef in last two parshiot of the Torah that we read on Shabbat, because Yehuda is the firstborn of Leah Imenu, and Yosef was the firstborn of Rachel Imenu. And so Jacob, because he had these two main wives, had two firstborns. Now, who gets to be the firstborn? Well, Yehuda was born much earlier than Yosef was. However, Yaakov's heart was with Rachel first. And so that's a very complex kind of situation that we would have to take a whole class to talk about that relationship and how the firstborn worked it out through Yosef, that power, what he calls the bracha, the bechorah. But that also has to do with us, that when you have a thought, let's say you have a series of thoughts. Sometimes your first thought is your best thought. You just don't know it. And because the world changes our thinking sometimes, and it convinces us that, oh, are you sure? Introduces doubt. That's what the evil does. That's what the other side does. Introduces doubt into our first intuition. Okay, so remember that sometimes your first thought is your best thought, and that's the idea of Bechorah, the firstborn, in thought. Then there's the firstborn in feeling. There's the firstborn in action. So here we're talking about this power of the mind that extends down from the mind through the torso and into the knees, and voila, you want to get up and dance. Shezeh bechinat birkayim. This is the idea of the knees, which is also, you see, the birkayim, the same root, bet, resh, chaf. So when you learn Hebrew and you learn the roots, always go after the roots. Whether you want to speak the language or just understand it Kabbalistically, go after the roots, because you have bet, resh, chaf here, which is also bracha, bechorah, now it's berech, the knees. And so you see that there's something intrinsic about the knees that's connected to blessing. That's why we bend down when we bless. What we're doing, essentially, when we bend down and bless in Kabbalah, is we're bringing the higher light to a lower place. And that's exactly why God created the world, to bring his highest light, infinite, eternal, untouchable light, and bring it down and put it in this very physical realm called planet Earth. Now, Shorash Bechorot, and the root of the firstborn, this power, Nikra Yayin, Kayadu, and it's also called wine. Why? Guess, think about the principle we've just been talking about. Why would wine be a nickname for firstborn? Because yain is the essence you're extracting from the grape and the grapevine. The whole purpose of the grapevine is to produce the grape, and the whole purpose of the grape is to produce the juice that becomes that precious wine that becomes the kiddush on Friday night, or the sanctification of a sacrifice in the Beit HaMikdash. Okay, sheyavo b'mehera b'yameinu. V'zeh yayin hamisameach. But this is a special wine. It's not just any wine. It's the yayin hamisameach, the yayin that brings joy. You know, you can drink wine and it doesn't make you too happy. It can make you sad. It can make you nostalgic. It can make you a lot of things. But the wine of joy is a very special thing, because you drink it and you feel happy for no reason. And that's the sign of spiritual joy. It's happiness that has no need for anything else. It's independent, right? A simcha shelo tolui b'davar, like ahava, it says in Pirkei Avot, shelo tolui b'davar, kayem, that will last. True love lasts. How do you know it's true? Because it's not dependent on anything else. And, you know, in our marriages and relationships, halavai, we had some of that, you know, that ahava shelo tolui b'davar, love that doesn't depend on anything, is the greatest love. And so too with joy. The greatest joy, it just is. It just is. Of course, it's still rooted in the tree of life and in the traits that we've spoke of. Now this is written about Jacob. Jacob, look at Jacob's name. What's in there? Yud, Ayin, Kuf, Bet. Yaakov. Yaakov is the letters of Ekev. Again, the root, the heel, the part of the legs. Shira'ah, Shehu, Bechinat Birkayim, B'makom Din. And Yaakov Avinu had the spiritual insight to see that he was standing in a place of din. And certainly he knew that when he was fighting the angel of Esav, and he knew that when he was fighting Lavan for a fair paycheck, and he knew that when he was fleeing Esav when he first left home. Those are all called moments of din, because there's judgment on a guy or on a person, and he has to get on the move and do something. Kishtei pa'amim elokim ima eser otiot gematria Yaakov. So now we go back to the original gematria that we had twice. The value of this name of God Elokim, the name of the God of judgment, these external powers, right? With the 10 letters is the same gematria as the name Jacob. Okay, va'azai amshich shorash gevorot, and then again we draw down this root of the powers of gevor, of might, of strength, of constriction, bechinat yayin hamisameach, and that's where we get the wine of joy. Now it's a very interesting thing about it. When you're happy and you laugh, right? You laugh. Your laughter is, you think it's coming from expansion and love. No, actually it's coming from the other side. The constriction, the squeeze, that little squeeze play in your heart is actually what produces the joy, the laughter. And that's why also one of the things about humor that you have to pay attention to is that it's the surprise that makes us laugh. You know, when someone slips on a banana, you laugh, but it's actually not a funny moment for the person who's slipping, right? That's a moment of din. Rabbi Nachman says when a person falls in public, it's a busha, it's an embarrassment because he embarrassed the Yom Tov in a certain way of not keeping the Yom Tov properly. So it's like mida keneged mida, it's measure for measure, that particular idea. But however, just for our purposes to understand the tree a little bit better, the tree of life, is that this power of Gevurah is really at the root of the joy of laughter. That's why Yitzhak is called Yitzhak, because his mom laughed when the angel told her she was going to give birth. She didn't believe it. She laughed, but it wasn't the laugh. It was the laughter of surprise. So when we understand the tree better, what happens is we're able to isolate and sense our own powers inside operating. So you can know when you're in a state of din, or you're in a state of mercy, or you're in a state of love. Now, we should know that intuitively, you would think, but sometimes you ask people what you're feeling and they can't put it in words. That's something we encounter in therapy a lot. You say, what are you feeling right now? I don't know. I'm kind of this, I'm that, and all this. So you have to put it in words, because putting things in words is actually part of the freedom of the soul. And that's a very deep thing that we try to work on in all aspects of healing, is that when you find your words for where you are, it's actually a gateway, it's a channel for your soul to come out. And it frees the soul from its own entrapment in the body and in the mind and in the heart. This is why Rabbi Nachman is so powerful and dedicated to the teaching of talking to God in your own language, in your own words, because you're actually providing channels for your soul to be free by talking to God. What a great deal. Just talk to him and you find the real freedom. And Jews are always big on freedom. You know, we know about the other side of freedom, unfortunately, or fortunately, depends on how you look at history. Nevertheless, we go forward, and the Rebbe tells us the pasuk vayavolo yain v'yisht, and they brought wine and they drank. The shorosh shel habracha, and this is the root of the idea of blessing. Blessing again is when you bring a highlight to a lower place to elevate the lower place or the lower thing, like food or wine or anything like that. Okay, and therefore we find by dancing, remember we're dancing with Elohim, God's name of judgment, but we're actually sweetening that judgment. When you drink that wine of joy, like at a wedding, a bar mitzvah, or wherever you find the joy. Now, I'm not sure a discotheque qualifies, guys. I hate to break that to you, but, you know, we're talking about gender-specific dancing, right? Mixed dancing is another thing altogether. Shehem shorosh a gevorot shebabina. He repeats the ayah again. The yayin as misamech is coming from the left brain of bina, of ima ila av, and imshachim lamata betoch haraglim, and it's drawn all the way down to your legs. So you see, just like the world is made of many layers of reality, we are also made of many layers of soul. Because you have this intellectual part, your emotional part, and your very physical part, like your legs and your feet, etc. And so they're interactive, and they respond to each other according to the power that we draw to them. That's what happens when someone dances. And that pushes away the negative forces. And that's why, the minute you get up, to dance at a wedding, you feel better. The wave kind of takes you over, and you enter the joy. And it's like, whoa, this is good. I'm happy I'm doing this. I was sitting on my chair 2 seconds ago and like moping or about something silly, because I'm not there at the wedding for my moping. I'm there for my friend who's getting married. V'zot hitlahavut shel harikud, and this enthusiasm of dancing, who eshet isha re'ach nichoach l'Hashem. This is the idea of the sacrificial fire, the isha. Re'ach nichoach, the pleasant odor to God. So you're actually creating a pleasant spiritual odor to the creator of the universe by simply getting up and dancing. And this is avami shemiraked bitlavut yetzer. Now he goes, I guess he the Rebbe knew I was coming. He said, but when a person dances for the enthusiasm of his evil inclination, that you want to get out there and dance to show off to the girls, or whatever other thing you might have in mind, right? Ze nikra chet shel Nadav v'Avihu. He connects it all the way back to the sin of the two sons of Aaron that died when they brought sacrificial incense to the Mishkan without permission. The inappropriate enthusiasm. Inappropriate enthusiasm. That means we have to pay attention to our enthusiasm. What am I getting excited about here? A football game? A political discussion? COVID? Or am I getting excited about saying Tehillim, about learning a piece of Rabbi Nachman, about going out to the forest and talking at night in the dark, where you feel suddenly how alone you can be on this planet? So we want to get enthusiastic about the right things. But if we get enthusiastic in the wrong way, like this kind of dancing that he mentioned, it's rooted all the way up the tree, back to Nadav and Avihu, the two Kohanim, who were actually the younger brothers of Eliezer. And the second brother now slips my mind, not Eviatar, that's a later Kohen. Someone help me out here, right? We had Eliezer, and it's going to slip. Okay, it'll come back. Nonetheless, Aaron the Kohen had 4 main sons, and then he had a grandson who became the Kohen of Shalom, Pinchas, of course. But Itamar, see, it always comes back. Itamar and Eleazar were the older brothers, but the 2 younger brothers, Nadav and Avihu, they made a mistake. They got excited before the time it was proper to bring that offering. And it cost them, they had to take the quick plane out of here, Karivu Eish Zara, and it's called, Rashi calls it, and they brought a strange fire. See, that's what enthusiasm is. It's a strange fire. It's not the accepted fire, the fire of joy and enthusiasm for Hashem. V'nadav Avihu hem netzer hod, and these 2 Kohanim are aligned also to this right and left thigh that we talked about, netzach and hod. V'tlavut shebekedusha. Now, when you have enthusiasm in holiness, nikra yein misameach, that's called the wine of joy. Sha'ayedei nitkaim nimtakim ha'gavorot va'abechorot. Right? So through this wine of joy, we sweeten this idea of this firstborn, this first power that comes out and needs sweetening. Like Reuven was the firstborn of Leah, and Reuven had problems, later on through the story of his life. First problems with Yosef. He didn't come to Joseph's aid till Reuven didn't come to Joseph's aid until it was a little late. And then he had a problem with wanting his father to go back to his mother's tent, which really wasn't his business. But still, you see, this has to be sweetened. This Eish Zara, this enthusiasm for getting in places I should not be. Right? Getting into relationships I don't need to be in. That's the strange fire. Wait a second, and as a teacher, believe me, especially, with in a woman's school, and, you have to really be careful. You have to have real boundaries to know what you're doing. And that goes all, certainly in the office environment, in the professional world. We have to understand where the enthusiasm belongs and where it doesn't belong. And who we are and what we represent. And I have a kippah on my head and a beard, I'm trying to make a statement. Well, to myself, maybe to the world. But that's important. And so the enthusiasm is to be in the right place at the right time. And this is the Yaim Misaker. And this Eish Zara, he calls it the drunken wine, the wine of drunkenness, where I'm not getting, I'm not drinking for the right reason. It's not a good place to go. V'itlahavut hayetzer, and this enthusiasm of the evil inclination, sham yesh chas v'shalom achizat chitzonim, and there, God forbid, we have the external forces are just waiting to jump on a person who dances for the wrong reasons in the wrong place with the wrong people. Well, enough said. And he goes on to tell us, Asher lo tzivah, because they were not commanded. God commands us to be joyous. God commands us to drink a little wine. God commands us to make our friends happy. and dance at their weddings and their bar mitzvahs. And that's all like the highest of the high, because there's nothing personal attached. It's not the ego trying to take over the dance floor. So folks, this is a work that we have to do, but we understand it like Rabbi Nachman teaches us, then it makes a lot of sense, and we understand more about the tree of life, more about how we're unified to the infinite through these personality traits, these forces in our soul, that when we use them for the right reason, we elevate creation. And we should all be blessed with this understanding and remember it. The next time we go out and hit the dance floor, we should all be blessed to lift up the joy of any occasion with the right word, the right dance, the right song at the right time. God bless you all. We're going to continue all this work. This Torah goes on. Let's see. Well, we've got another column or so, and then we will continue this work of bringing Rabbi Nachman's master work in English, online, Torah for Torah, paragraph for paragraph, because it's the greatest privilege of my life, and I want to share that with everyone else, to be with these holy books. You should have a great week, and we'll see you again.